email. Happy to to post them on the WriteOnCon page or on Lisa and Laura's blog or wherever you guys want to hear this. This is definitely not proprietary. I've written them down, obviously, to share them. So if you don't get everything down, I'm more than happy, like I said, to email it or pass it along in whatever form is easiest for you. I'm very easy to reach, daisywhitney@gmail.com. So I wanted to explain my background first and why Lisa and Laura asked me to do this. I've been a reporter, podcaster, conference programmer for about 15 years now. This is basically what I've done as my day job since I was in my earlier 20s. Have reported for a number of different outlets, mainly focused on TV, media, and advertising, trade business. I've written for publications like TV Week, Advertising Age, Hollywood Reporter, and so on. I do my own web show. I host 2 podcasts every single week. And so basically, I had an existing online presence already as kind of a new media expert, which I say in quotes because it's so weird to call myself an expert at anything. But that's definitely what I had established already. And once I sold my book, which obviously is not in new media, it's fiction and it's young adult, I needed to figure out kind of how to cross-pollinate my existing online presence with a writing-centric one and to both keep my focus on new media, technology for the people who were following and interacting with me for those reasons, to know when my podcasts were on, or to know what I'm covering as it relates to augmented reality or the advertising business of virtual goods, but also start weaving in new posts about writing to basically start sharing all of those different worlds with the existing folks that I knew already. So I basically developed, I kind of developed it for this conference, but these are best practices that I've always had in the back of my mind as I've been working on, what is the right online presence to have. And there are 7 of them. And the first one is be consistent online, whether it's a web show that you're doing. In my case, I do the New Media Minute. It comes out every Tuesday. I will usually take a couple weeks off a year, but that's sort of normal. Everyone does that. But that comes out every Tuesday, and that's sort of a regular expectation. And it's, similar with podcasts. And I think the same thing applies if you're going to be blogging or tweeting or whatever it is. So if you're a blogger and you're going to be blogging about writing, it's important to be consistent. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do it every day. Somebody like Kirsten White does it every day, and she's very good at it. She has the diligence and the discipline and the creativity to blog every day on her site, and that's why it's worth doing for her to do it every day. If you don't do it every day, then just be consistent about whether it's once a week or twice a week or whatever it is. You just want to establish a pattern so that people who become your fans and your friends know what to expect. And then you should also decide if you're going to be blogging or if you're going to be tweeting regularly or Facebooking or whatever it is, just decide what you want it to be about. Since this is a writing conference, if you're going to be blogging regularly, do you want it to be about writing or the writing process or querying? Do you want it to be about your life, about your kids or your family? Do you want it to be about all of the above? It can be a hodgepodge, but it's just good for you to know what it should be, and that'll help you focus as you're thinking about how you want to interact online. And then, of course, the second point is pick and choose where you want to be online. There are so many different social networking avenues and places where you can be, and it can be overwhelming, and you can feel like you have to do everything. Should you be on Facebook? Should you be on Twitter? Should you be blogging? Maybe you should do all of those. Maybe you should do none of those. It really depends on what is the right platform for you. So those are the things that you should think about. Should your Twitter posts be cross-posted on Facebook or vice versa? I hope everyone can see the video. If you need me to relaunch anything, just let me know. So those are things that, I choose to have my Twitter feed cross-posted on Facebook, and that's why I'm not going to be tweeting 20 times a day, because then that gets overwhelming on Facebook. So you just have to think about it. If they're not connected, then it's much easier to tweet 20 times a day because people aren't, hearing it over and over. They're just kind of jumping in. Twitter's sort of like a bath. You just kind of jump into the Twitter stream every now and then. So pick and choose what works for you and decide if you want them to be connected. And then the third one, which I think is really important, is I think you should have, what I call a personal code for who you are online, but also, what you will talk about. And I actually have a list of things I will and won't tweet about. I keep that as a draft in my email, just kind of look at it from time to time. I'm not afraid to share here for the purposes of this session some of the things I won't talk about. Like I don't tweet about my kids. I mean, I have kids, and they may come up from time to time, sort of in an offside way, in a tweet or in a blog post. But but I don't say I'm going out to this place with my son right now, or taking my kids to swim lessons, or whatever it is. Religion, politics, and celebrities, those are other things that I stay away from. And I also try to minimize my tweets about the book itself, which can be hard to do because you're excited about your book and it's your baby and you want people to buy it. But I think that there can be a little bit too much of that at times too. So it's really important. I mean, one of the things that my publisher has emphasized is, buzz is such an important thing, but it really needs to be carefully managed, and you don't want too much of it for your book too soon. So you can kind of, push your own buzz too early by talking about it too much. And I think somebody like, I really like Jen Hubbard of the Secret Year. I hope I got the title correct for her book. She tweets about writing, but it never feels like it's constantly about her book or buy my book or here's what's going on with my book. Like, she has really interesting tweets just about the writing process. Ellen Hopkins is a similar one. I mean, she's got this whole thread going on now about censorship because that's something that that she's dealing with. So just be cautious. Don't talk too much about your book per se, because it can just feel like selling, and nobody wants to be sold to constantly. And I also feel strongly that by and large, if you've been drinking or having a glass of wine, that's probably not the time you want to be online. Probably not the time you want to be on Twitter or Facebook, because you can overshare and possibly say something that you'll regret, and those things can live forever. So just be cautious about that. And I also think it's really important, by and large, to be positive when you're thinking about building an online presence. It's really easy if you get annoyed with anyone, the mailman, an editor, an agent, a rejection, a client, to kind of tweet something about your frustration. And I just think that frustration is better confined to your relationships, friends and family. So along those lines, my fourth point is to develop a brand. Think about what you want to be known for online and as a writer, and focus on that. I really can't stress enough that your reputation is real. It matters. I mean, this is something that I deal with in my day job and working with. One of the things that I do is I program conferences that are media and advertising focused. I program conferences for iMedia and ad tech, and have a lot of brands that are coming to speak. And one of the things that they deal with is, sort of what is being said about their brand online, and how do they manage it, and how do they make sure they're putting their best foot forward. And I think the same really applies for writers and for individuals. So think about what it is. I mean, it lives and it breathes and it's real, and you need to figure out what it is. And what I would urge you all to do is just, think of it almost like a job resume. You're always going to want to put your best foot forward on a job resume and in a job interview. And I think when you're interacting online and developing your online presence, it's the same idea. So don't complain about editors, agents, other writers. Really strive to avoid negativity. And that old saying, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it all. But if you do need to vent or you do need to complain, that's why we have close relationships with friends. So talk to those people. And I would also avoid, for writers that are on submission or looking for agents, everybody feels differently about this, but I'm going to go ahead and put my feeling out about this. I think it's probably best to avoid chronicling your rejections regularly on a blog. I think maybe after you sold or after you've landed an agent, it's kind of fair to talk about how many query letters you put out, or sort of what the submission process was like before you landed a book deal. But I think while you're in the process, you just never know if a publishing house or an agent is checking you out on your blog and they find out that you've been rejected 100 times. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I've been rejected 100 times. I've got a lot of unpublished books, but I think it's just best that like I said, that you're putting your best foot forward. And then my fifth point about building online presence is, really think about building a community, because it's not just about you. It's reaching out and developing friends. Like my relationship with, with Lisa and Laura, it all started because we comment on each other's blogs. We don't always do it every day, but we do it whenever we can. And that's important. I mean, that's how we got connected in the first place, is reading each other's blogs and commenting. So a lot of times when a new writer will ask me, like, well, how do I develop an online platform? Well, it takes time and it takes work and it takes effort, but it's really, truly doable and achievable. And all you have to do is go out and visit other places. That's what Jamie said. She's like, that's how we got people involved here. But right, because that's how we develop all these relationships. So you go out and you visit other places. You read other writers' blogs. You find the writers that you admire, that, you're critique partners with, and you go and you visit their blogs and you comment on them. And, you find like-minded friends on Twitter and you reply to their tweets and you interact. I mean, that's how it happens. This is a question that I get in my day job as well. How do you build an audience for a web show or a podcast? Well, it comes from finding your audience. A lot of times you have to go out and seek them, and you have to build that audience and that community, and you have to interact with them. That's how it happens by and large. So make sure you do that and give it time. You're not going to start out with 2,000 friends. If you have 5 today, it's probably going to take time, but you'll get there through a sort of a careful and thoughtful cultivation, and by showing an interest in what other people are doing as well. And then my 6th point is to be authentic. And, this is something that I think is so key, because at the end of the day, you really do need to be yourself. And that's what matters. You need to be your best self, because in authenticity, I truly believe can be spotted a mile away. You have to think about who you are, and like I said, what you stand for and what you represent. And, if you're not being true to that, it's going to be obvious. People are going to smell that. They're going to sniff that out, and they're going to know it's not you. And I go back to somebody like Kirsten White, who just has become this wonderful canonical example in our world. But she's somebody who you can tell. You can tell from her blog posts that she enjoys it. It's truly infectious. I mean, she really loves doing the daily blogging, and that is authentic to her. I mean, that is part of her brand, that cleverness, that daily reliability. And that's, I think, who you need to be. And then the 7th point kind of jumps off of that, is you also need to know your limits. Now, I was blogging a little bit more regularly. I was trying to do it every day. Probably back in December and January. And then I started to realize it was really impacting the work that I was doing during the day for my clients, because I'm maintaining, my own business, the day job, so to speak, as well as writing books under contract. And it was really impacting my ability to get my work done, impacting my time with my family, and just impacting my writing. So I think that's the important thing too, that you need to build an online presence, but you also need to know what your limits are and when to say enough is enough. So I've kind of pulled back, and I'm not necessarily blogging every day. I'm probably doing it 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm also, frankly, blogging about subjects that are just a little bit easier for me to write about quickly. And they might be more simplistic, but I blog a little bit more about my dog, and about shoes, because those are blog posts that I can rattle off in 5 minutes at a pop. And sometimes that's, quite frankly, all I have to manage the other things that are going on in my life. And, I might not get the hugest audience for that. From time to time, I will blog about writing and where I'm at with my novels if I have something interesting and useful to say. But yeah, shoes and dogs. I mean, those are things that I'm passionate about. That goes back to the authenticity. I love shoes. I love my dog. Everybody who knows me and interacts with me, more than once or twice knows that about me. So sometimes that's what I wind up blogging about. And, maybe it's interesting to 5 people, but I'm okay if I'm only attracting 5 people to those blog posts, because that's what I want to write about at that moment in time. And if I can leave you with one tip, one thing to really take away from here, is that I think the most important thing to remember is that the best PR, the best online presence that you can have at the end of the day is writing your next book. So whatever is getting in the way of writing your next book, if it is building your online presence, then don't do it. Because what matters most to editors, to agents, and to readers, and to book buyers is that you produce the next book. So if anything gets in the way of that, then stop doing it and just go back to writing. So that's my presentation, and I would love to chat with you guys and take questions. I'm definitely going to sign off at 8, my time, in 15 minutes. I have to pick my son up, but I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys. All right. How do I get my video back up? Did I lose the video? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, I just minimized it. That was all. It's like, I don't see me anymore. I can show you guys my shoes. Here, while you're waiting for questions, these I got from Paris. My mother-in-law picked them up for me.